Hello, this is Ina from Taproot Tarot, and I want to show you a new Eudes Picard tarot deck that I found quite by accident. I'm pretty excited about it. You might know that I did a bit of a deep dive on the Eudes Picard pips, not so much on the majors because he really didn't focus on the triumphs, I should say. But because this deck does have some triumphs that are worth looking at, we will get a chance to see Eudes Picard's version of the triumphs. But if you want to know more about Eudes Picard's pip system, which he developed in around 1911, 1909, something like that. Published, I should say. I'm sure he developed it long before that. I will post the link to that video in my description. It is a pip system which inspired a bunch of decks, including the Crystal Tarot. So when the new Crystal Tarot came out, I did another video highlighting the Eudes Picard pip system. And I won't go too far into the history of it, but to set the stage a little bit, it was a time when the Tarot de Marseille was being used as the basis for esoteric tarot, continental esotericism. It was also a time when the English tradition was beginning to develop, also based on the Tarot de Marseille. The English tradition, of course, started by the Golden Dawn and leading to and inspiring the Smith-Waite and Thoth tarots. But separate from that was a whole continental esoteric tradition developing, which has different astrological associations. Nora Brownfield, who was responsible for publishing this version of Eudes Picard's deck, notes that even the Dali Tarot, for example, is more influenced by this continental astrological tradition. I don't do astrology with tarot, so I have no idea. But that's just worth noting. And I go a little bit into that in my Eudes Picard video. Like I said, I will link that if you want to check it out. But I've heard many folks say that Eudes Picard may have cracked the most logical astrological tarot association that there is, because it's based on the house system more than on the signs. Again, I don't do astrology, so not because I don't love it. I love astrology, and I love listening to learned astrologers, but I'm not a learned astrologer, so I don't layer astrology onto my tarot at all. So I ignore that part. Anyway, I'm blabbing. I do want to mention, though, that in that Eudes Picard vid, I showed all of my decks from that tradition, or that were influenced by that tradition, but I forgot one of them. And I know it was missed because somebody mentioned it in the comments. And so I thought, I better bring it out. I have shown this deck before because I don't like it. I don't remember which tag it was, but it was one that included a deck that I was disappointed in because this takes Eudes Picard's pip system and pairs it with Oswald Wirth's triumphs. So as we'll find out when we see these, Eudes Picard didn't care too much about the triumphs. He was an accomplished artist, which we can see from his pips, but he kind of phoned it in a little bit for the triumphs, which is really interesting. The thought that I kind of forgot to finish was that his focus was on taking the numerological and symbolic ways of reading pips of the time and putting them into a visual representation. So we'll see that here in a moment. So they're not exactly scenic pips, but they have some more visual hints to them than a regular TDM deck of playing cards. So I thought that was really cool to take two early esotericists, one of whom really focused on the pips and one of whom really focused on the triumphs. As we know, Oswald Wirth did not design triumphs, he did not design pips. So I was really excited that Lo Scarabeo had combined the two. Unfortunately, the artist, no offense to this artist, did not do Oswald Wirth's art justice, in my opinion. And I've even thought about taking my Lo Scarabeo copy of Oswald Wirth's deck. I think it's the Golden Tarot of Wirth or something like that. No, it's the Symbolic Tarot of Wirth. So that one, you might know, has... No, I do have both the symbolic version and the golden version. I don't remember. The symbolic version of Tarot of Wirth also has kind of terrible minors or pips and quartz. So I have actually combined the two and used them together, but the difference in the backs and the borders is too weird for me, so I put them back. Anyway, I don't like these triumphs at all. They, I don't know. I won't get into it too much, but they're not my taste. I also have issue with Oswald Wirth himself. You know, he's dead and gone, so who cares? But he was kind of a terrible person. He did make some lovely art, though, and it's not represented well in this deck, which bums me out because this artist actually did a really nice job with Eudes Picard's cards, with representing Eudes Picard's art. It is redrawn, but the people in it look like regular people, whereas they kind of look like adult film stars in the majors. So I don't really understand why. I kind of wish the, I don't know. I'm not the artist, so whatever. But I had meant to show this deck in that original video, and I just forgot. It was sitting right there. I got done filming it, and I looked down and thought, oh, look, that's still right there, isn't it? So, so I'm doing that now. The only bummer is that there's a few symbolic elements that get left out of these pips, but it's not that terrible. It's overall a pretty good representation of Eudes Picard's pips. So I wanted to mention that if you are an Eudes Picard fan, that this Universal Tarot of Wirth is an option, but unfortunately the Wirth part of it isn't represented very well, in my opinion. But back to the purpose of this video, which is to compare the Contemplative Tarot with Eudes Picard's Tarot. So this deck is not in print anymore, I don't think. It used to be available on Noria Brown, or on the Noria Brownfield website, and that's not her name, Christine Payne-Towler. I think I said it as if this was her name, but it's not. It's Christine Payne-Towler. I have her book on this deck, and I have the new, newer English translation of Eudes Picard's original writing, which is really worth having. And I also have the original book for the El Gran Tarot Esoterico by Marichu Gula. And that deck, the quartz and pips were created by reading the Eudes Picard's text. She did not have a visual copy of the deck available, though. But she adds a really great spin, or really great layer of being an experienced tarot card reader on top of Eudes Picard's meanings. So anyway, I go through all three of those texts in that video, which I will link in the description. Okay, please don't sleep on half-price books, y'all, because they have got some amazing collectible tarots, and everyone I've gotten from them, which is 2, but, well, technically 3, which I'll explain in a second, but they've all been in excellent shape, really well represented. It's not like eBay where there's like a lot of pictures. It's usually just the one picture. Sometimes they'll have multiple photos available, but you're taking a little bit of a risk because it's a huge kind of big box store situation. And so there's no real way to find out the exact condition of these collectible out of print decks that you're getting. This one I'm pretty sure is out of print and collectible. Yes, it is. But it was available for a really reasonable price on Half Price Books, and I got a discount, or I had a coupon, so that was awesome. Another one I got was a classic out of print Lo Scarabeo. It was my Piedmont deck. And for that one, they were having like a 20% off collectibles sale. So not only was it already a really good price, but then I got 20% off. Now the third one that's technically from Half Price Books, it's one that I found just by browsing their selection. So a little pro tip, search collectible tarot deck on Half Price Books and you'll find some really cool decks available. So I found this one that I thought was pretty cool and really interesting, but not $40 worth for me. You know, I didn't want it that much. So I searched for the deck to see if I could find it for a better price elsewhere. I did find it for $24 on Amazon, unfortunately, but guess who the seller was? It wasn't directly through Amazon. It was sold by Half Price Books through Amazon. I have no idea why. So I'm kind of like, Half Price Books, offer it for $24 on your site so that neither one of us has to give Amazon money. But anyway, I bought it from Half Price Books through Amazon for whatever reason. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about this one. So I saw this one just as I was browsing through their selection, and you know, it's not really my style at all. You might know that I don't like this 90s hyperrealism kind of deck. But for whatever reason, I kept coming back to it and kept coming back to it. And there weren't very many pictures available. So I thought, okay, clearly I'm being drawn to this tarot, even though, like, look at it, that's not my style at all. This is pretty though, I will admit that. So I wasn't sure why, and I looked it up and realized these are Eudes Picard pips. So I was pretty excited about that. Now, it's apparently intended to be a deck that you use for, as it says, contemplation. I really didn't look at the guidebook or anything like that. I just have this as a novelty, to be perfectly honest. The info cards are beautiful. These angel cards, we've got Temperance, and I think that's the Empress. Really beautiful. Let's see. Oh, this is the Divine, which is the Empress in this card. So yeah, a lot of things are renamed. You know, there's just like a lot of 90s weirdness that is not my taste at all. However, the pips are pretty amazing. And honestly, with a few complaints, mainly, you know, the very white, thin, homogeneous nature of the people, and just the hyperrealism that isn't my taste at all. Aside from those, though, some of the art is actually really lovely on its own. And then on top of that, of course, I'm a fan of Eudes Picard pips, so let's check them out. It's not an exact match, but let's have a chance to look at them together. And like I mentioned before, Picard was not super interested in creating gorgeous triumphs, but they're super weird and pretty great. They were not colored in originally, so this coloration was done by Christine Payne-Towler's husband, who is an artist. Oh, one thing I do want to mention about the Contemplative Tarot is that the backs are coded by the pips. So we have a different back for swords, cups, coins, batons, and the majors, or the triumphs. So that's a thing, just for you to be aware of. And apparently that factors into the way these are intended to be used, which, like I said, I didn't read the guidebook, so I'm not really sure. I guess I'm being a little disrespectful of the creators of this deck, but I'm sure it's really cool, and I probably will read the guidebook at some point. But again, I really just got it because I was like, ooh, another Eudes Picard deck that I wasn't aware of, so let's check it out. Where are the backs? Oh yeah, this is, oh, the Fool is a little different. And these are the backs of Christine Payne-Towler's Eudes Picard. Side note, there is another Eudes Picard book and deck coming out. I couldn't find the creators anywhere online, but I think it was they were posting, one of them anyway, was posting in the Tarot History Forum on Facebook. So check that out if you're interested. So Eudes Picard sticks pretty closely to the Tarot de Marseille. He just adds his astrological associations. This is his handwriting. The colors, however, were not his. Those were added later. And on this side, we've got pretty scenic, hyper-realistic art. Okay, this is actually quite gorgeous. And this is also called Divine. So this is man. I guess they're just categorized into different stages of, I guess, spiritual development. But this is super cool. I do love that. This one does have some very realistic nudity in it that I might have to cover up a little bit here and there. So we have the Empress here, traditional on this side, but with the addition of the triangle, and called the Divine on the left. Another Divine, that is pretty neat. We have a European Pope with some supplicants from around the world. The traditional Pope here. Very Adam and Eve kind of scene with the Marseille lovers. Pretty cool esoteric chariot. Some sphinxes. Justice. The Hermit here is labeled man, like the Magician. Got some snakes, which we've talked before about how sometimes a snake is included with the Hermit to indicate him as prudence. So it might be a reference to that. Got a Sphinx and Ouroboros in the Wheel of Fortune. Very cool. Cloudy sky with angels in the background. And this is just funny. I'm sure he did the pips first and then just scribbled out the the triumphs. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my assumption. Fortitude. Here is a divine card. The Hanged Man is man. Okay, this death is super badass. I do love that. It's kind of more like the early Italian death cards on a horse, or even Smith's art. I think he's a knight in that one. These colors are kind of unexpected and cool. Like, you don't normally see red angel wings, but that's pretty neat. And we have a Baphomet Devil card. It's quite beautiful, very realistic. Oops. And rather anatomically correct. The colors that were chosen for this are fun. I love the perspective on this Tower card. There was a, I just saw a post today, I think, on Instagram of somebody making a tarot deck where he's talking about how he doesn't like how the Tower figures are so big compared to the Tower. So he corrected that by making it more of a perspective like this. And then so the figures could be bigger, and that would make sense. And then he put like his best friend's face. It's a collage deck, and he told him to make a face that was like, you know, act like you're falling to your death kind of thing. I thought that was funny. Anyway, I don't remember who that creator is, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty cool tarot deck. In fact, I will look. I'm sure I liked the post, so I'll share that link now that I've mentioned it. And this is Universe. So here we're getting into, I guess, the celestial cards are going to be labeled Universe. A lovely star card. I love that bright, gorgeous sky. I really love this moon card with the minarets, the bright sky, crustacean there. It's kind of a black retriever with the wolf. It's pretty cool. I think the sun is really beautiful. We've got some kiddos playing in the yard. So it's got some Marseille vibes, but also includes the sunflowers behind the wall. And the Judgment card is another universe card. Quite traditional, lovely. Okay, so here we get into the good stuff, and I have left these in the order that they appear in Eudes Picard's original book. I'm not normally one to interpret wands or swords as phallic symbols, but I think this one's kind of intended to be. Here they're referred to as scepters, and Picard's system is very elemental, but as you can see, he was an accomplished artist and really cared deeply about the art in his pips and courts, but not so much in the triumphs. So none of these are going to be exact matches, but you'll be able to see the influence for sure. And if you're curious about what all these symbols refer to, you can check out my longer Eudes Picard video. So we're varying the shapes a little bit here, but we do have the caduceus. I think they're really beautiful, very pretty colors. A lot of similar symbols with the checkerboard and the wheat and the overall basic shape. This is a cool variation with some volcanoes in the background. Definitely see the influence there. It is really quite lovely. Now this is interesting. It's an apple and a dolphin. And a chaff of wheat. I'll have to look at the guidebook or the little white book, see what that's all about. But we certainly have the juxtaposition of the clouds and the flames like we have in the original Eudes Picard. I think this is really cool. Rather than an oil lamp, we've kept a camping lantern. And still separating the 9 into 2 shapes above and below, as with the original. These colors are really quite lovely, the scenic backgrounds I really enjoy. Eudes Picard writes that this valet of scepters is getting tangled up in the branches, so it's still the case in the Contemplative Tarot. He does talk about this specifically jumping through the fire, so we're definitely doing that in the Lo Scarabeo deck. The Queen of Scepters is not standing on an arrow. This represents Sagittarius in Eudes Picard's deck, but she is holding the flaming baton, but it's also flowering, which is pretty cool. These look like maybe periwinkles. That's neato. Not standing on a lion, as he is in the Eudes Picard deck. He is standing on something, though. And we go into coins or deniers. Some visual nods, but certainly different. And really beautiful, honestly. Really like it. And look at this. I think this was the first one I found a picture of, the first pip at all, and I thought, ooh, like instantly I knew exactly what it was. So we don't have the overt eagle heads, but they're kind of hinted at with these eagle wings. And the moon down below in both cases, but more symbolic in the original. No larva in this deck that I've been able to find, or maybe there's one. There might be one that I found. We'll see if I'm remembering that right. So yeah, definitely a little bit different take here. Very different, super cool. Kind of interesting how we have this imperial globe here, which is a little bit represented by columns and domes of important buildings. So very much influenced. Super cool. Definitely a different route there. These are very similar. Kind of see the vibe. Similar in both, but lovely scenery. Farm fields. His Eudes Picard's coin suit is very agricultural. Now that's just lovely. It reminds me of a Pennsylvania Dutch hex sign. Which is, those are for good luck. They're not really for hexing anybody. Or good fortune, I should say. So Picard gets really specific with his symbolism. Not so much here. And you'll see that the Contemplative Tarot doesn't stick to Picard's elemental associations or astrological as far as I know. Although we are seeing that symbolized here a bit. So this is kind of reminding me actually of Picard's 6 of coins. A little bit of the 8, where we have some astrological symbols above ground and some below. 7 as well. Yeah, it's the 7 that this is really reminding me of, actually. I knew there was one of them that was a lot like this. The symbols aren't lining up completely, but a little bit. Like we see Mars here and Mars here, for example. So that's pretty interesting. So this is, to be clear, the 7 of coins, and this is the 10 of coins in the Contemplative Tarot. And Eudes Picard does not use Kabbalah at all, but they are indicated here in the Contemplative Tarot. So yeah, interesting differences there. Now I'm curious what the 7 of coins was like. Okay, so here we have the 2 7s of coins, whereas this 7 of, or the 10 of coins is really matching up with Eudes Picard there. That's interesting. So he's learning to balance his money in 2 different ways here. I can kind of see that. A lot of the knights have just this long Fabio kind of hair. They kind of look like they belong on the cover of one of those cheesy romance novels. Queen of Coins also looking pretty contemporary, or maybe from like, I don't know, the 40s or something, 30s. So you might recall that Eudes Picard associates the cups with air and the swords with water, which doesn't bother me because I don't use elements. So luckily that doesn't throw me off. And while the Contemplative Tarot does incorporate or symbolize water a lot in the cups, it also includes the butterfly symbolism from Eudes Picard's deck. And here not only with the butterfly down below, but with a dove up above where we have the second butterfly in Eudes Picard. It's pretty cool. And my assumption is that the butterfly here represents Psyche, which is a combination of emotion and intellect. And we've got those two eagle heads here, which are kind of hinted at with some wings, some bird wings down below. It's pretty cool. And these are lovely. So we have a moon and a sun on either side in Eudes Picard, with a sun up above and a moon down below in the Contemplative Tarot. And this is an egg, which we have pictured right here. We've got the butterfly on both. And we see a bunch of smaller astrological symbols here, like Libra and Gemini. I think this is a diamond, maybe? That's interesting. But we have, that's a lemon. So we've got the eagle hatching from the egg here. Those are fruit. I think they're probably pears, but here instead we've got a lemon, so that's kind of cool. But in this one we've got more butterflies. No butterflies here, but the lemon with the leaves does look like a little bit winged. We do have the wheat in both cases. This is very cool. So in Eudes Picard we see this tiny little owl on top of the pentagram and another one peeking through it. And so here we just have an owl on top and some birds and butterflies in both cases. I guess these are more dragonflies. But we do have a butterfly here. Some lovely tulips down below, which we kind of have here too. The little red ones look like maybe tulips. Lots of different kinds of birds in Eudes Picard. He really enjoyed his details. A little bit more simplified in the Contemplative Tarot here with a six-pointed star in the middle. But definitely referencing the shape of the cups from Eudes Picard. They're just reversed, upside down. These are cute cups with little hearts on them. And we've got some butterflies referenced there. A nice butterfly in the middle. So once again, it's like the same shape, but they're reversed. So instead of the cups facing outward, as they are in Eudes Picard, they're all facing inward in the Contemplative Tarot. That's pretty cool. And we've got butterfly wings on the cups here, and bird wings on the cups here. Eudes Picard's pips are all about shape and representing kind of more Pythagorean number associations. So even where the shapes aren't exactly the same in the Contemplative Tarot, shape is playing a role for sure. Got some pretty rose thorns there. And a little flame, which is interesting. They really seem to deviate with the tens. We've got roses in this 10. But each cup does have a different symbol. Some of them have bugs. And we've got a ladybug in the center of this one. We've got all similar elements here. Here's the butterfly, which we see pictured in this one. And it is important in Eudes Picard's book that he's smelling the flowers, so he's at least among the cups of flowers here. Kind of a rich, spoiled looking guy a little bit in his English style writing clothes. I like how his shield is heart-shaped. This horse is a little unfortunate. For the most part, like I said, Eudes Picard is quite a good artist, but some of his figures are a little questionable. But that's interesting. He's got a cup on his shield here, but a heart-shaped shield here. And the Queen of Cups has a butterfly over her cup in both these cases. And here she has some eagles, and I believe that could be an eagle feather or quill. No, actually that looks like a distaff. Take that back. Looks like a spinning distaff. So yeah, no real reference to the eagles that I can see. And that is interesting because in some of the historical decks, the Queen of Cups is holding what could be a scepter or a sword, but in some you can see like a thread of yarn or fiber surrounding whatever it is she's holding, and it really does look like a distaff. So that's super interesting, actually. Neat historical reference there. Look up the Suzanne Bernadin or Bernadin Suzanne TDM Queen of Cups if you want to see one that looks like a distaff. There's some discussion on whether or not that card maker was male or female. But either way, I think it's kind of cool. That Queen of Cups is representing kind of a historically important feminine occupation. Now the King of Cups, even though Cups is air in with Eudes Picard, this water actually represents the symbol of Aquarius, who is an air sign, right? I do believe, which doesn't make any sense to me, but okay. But we see that reflected in this King of Cups, kind of a fountain of water. And he's got some bird wings, whereas this King of Cups has a butterfly on his scepter. It's pretty cool. So there is some mixing up of elements here, which I think is pretty neat. We have water represented for the most part in Eudes Picard's original swords. And honestly, if you look at the Smith Waite swords, they're very watery, so I don't really think this should be too out of the ordinary for most tarot readers, in my opinion, but again, I'm not too attached to the elements. But here we have both air and fire. That's pretty cool. And we have a very traditional Marseille Ace of Swords here with the Sforza emblem, which is this coronet style crown, a palm frond, and a branch of laurels. So that's pretty neat. I just adore this one. If you have, I think it's the El Gran Tarot Esoterico that gets this one upside down, if I'm remembering correctly. One of them has this upside down. Oh, maybe it is. No, it's actually the Crystal Tarot, I think, that puts this one upside down. But here the swords are crossed instead of in a V shape, but we still have the lightning and the clouds and the ocean. It's pretty cool. This is fun. We stick with the lily pad leaves, which are sinking, which means they're dying, and then the fish, which is floating, which also means it's dying. We have that here, but in the sky, but we still have a kind of anatomically correct heart, or almost correct heart. So that's a nice little blend. So we've got some moon phases here. Now, isn't this Pisces? Am I incorrect about that? Here we have Cancer and Scorpio represented with the moon. Again, I think that's what it is, but I don't really know what those associations mean. But we have some more lily pads on the edges here. This is pretty cool. This eye is supposed to be your conscience. It's kind of a god eye, but it's kind of trying to keep you on track. And the general vibe is similar, but a little different take. I really like how we switched to some curved scimitars in the Seven of Swords for the Contemplative Tarot. And here we have the moon up above and the sun below the water. Here the sun is setting with the moon up above, which is actually really beautiful. I actually quite love these pips. Similar shapes for the 8. We've got our lily pads and fish again for the 9 of Swords and Eudes Picard. I think in the 90s beta fish were kind of new and exotic considered in the United States at least. So that was probably had a different. It probably hit different in the 90s than it does now. But I love a beta fish. It's super cute. And we actually stay similar in the 10s this time, the different moon phases and the shape. Oh, those are the hilts of the swords. I was kind of wondering what was going on there. Okay. Beautiful. Super militaristic valet of swords, which fits, I think. The checkerboard in Eudes Picard's deck represents strategy. Very armored Knight of Swords in both cases. Here he's supposed to be struggling through the ocean. This is pretty cool. I thought maybe she was holding something, but I think she's just pointing. Definitely indicating something. I'll have to look at the guidebook. Probably should have done that before I did this video. We're having fun here though. And finally, the King of Swords, standing on a moon in both cases. And he's pointing to himself. That's interesting. Where the Queen was pointing outward and he's pointing to himself. Pretty cool. I'll have to look at that guidebook. It's probably pretty deep. Well, that was fun. It was just complete happenstance that I found a Eudes Picard influenced pip deck. So I'm very pleased to have picked it up. And again, got a good deal on Half Price Books. And I believe it was even sealed. I've had it for a little bit now. I don't remember if I opened it or not. But tell me what you think. Check out my Eudes Picard video if you enjoyed this and want more details on his pips and symbolism. Do you have this deck? Let me know if you use it as suggested as a contemplative tool or if you find it to be a good general reader. Alrighty, well thank you so much for joining me today and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.